Alright guys, so today we're here in New York City, once again with Micah, and we're just going to get a little bit more insight and just kind of learn more about his story.
Who
and
is
his come up.
Micah?
Who is Micah
Who is
McDonald?
Micah? I remember whenever I was on Selling Sunset, all the little, who is Micah? What is Micah McDonald? It was funny.
Yeah.
Who is Micah? Hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
We're going to find out today. So Micah, I want to, go back, right, and give us kind of some insight on your early childhood, your come up. What was that like? What is maybe like the pivotal point in your life? Maybe early on, maybe you had like there was like a glimpse of what was to come in entrepreneurship. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about your childhood. And that
Childhood was interesting. So I'm one of 8. I've got 7 brothers and sisters. Same mom and dad. Mom and dad's still married. But childhood was interesting. So as I look back on it and I think about it, it was like a happy childhood, but at the same time, like I didn't realize a lot of the things I realize now about it, and just how little we had, and knew nothing about. You're just happy when you're younger, right? Like you don't realize that you don't really have anything, or the things that you're doing isn't like what a lot of other people are doing. You just really know the little bubble that you're in. So growing up was interesting. The first several years of life was in a trailer park, like almost like 8 Mile, and it was how many brothers and sisters? I think at the time in one trailer, a single wide, not even a double wide. There was 6? There was 8 of us in there total. So almost all of my brothers and sisters, and we were all living in a trailer. And then moved out of that to Houston whenever I was young, and then into Alief, Southwest Alief, Texas, which was a very interesting place. And we moved into an apartment building, and then my other brothers and sisters came along after that. So there were like almost 10 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment in Alief. And just a hardworking dad. My mom stayed at home, took care of us, which obviously was a massive full-time undertaking. Mm-hmm. And we were all close and happy, but again, I just look back on it and just think how crazy it was that we lived that way, right? And the things that were just so normal, how they weren't. And like things you're just used to, how they weren't. There was no glimpse or glimmer of anything for me when I was younger, other than I knew my neighborhood and that was it. I think my mom and dad were too afraid to send us to school at some point, so we started homeschooling, which for me was fine, because it created a work ethic in me that I don't know that like public school would have brought out of me. But I just looked at it from a standpoint of okay, you're telling me I can start my classes when I want. I think we had one rule, like it was you had to be up, and it was read your Bible. You had to read your Bible first. That was like, I guess, the first subject. Read your Bible, and then you had to have your bed made and dressed and everything by 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you just start your work and your studies, and you have a certain things to do, and once you're done with those, you're done for the day. There was no just sitting there for no reason. And I was like, oh, this is too easy. Like, I'll start at 8, I'll be done at 10. And I remember just being young thinking, like, this is great. So my friends have to sit in school all day, and I can be done in a couple hours. I loved it. So, and then once I got out of school, it was all about sports. So I was never, I wasn't into anything really other than sports. My mom tried to get me in a few other things that I wish I'd have stayed, piano. It'd be so cool to, like, go play some piano or something right now, but I didn't stick to that. I just wanted to play sports, and everything was just about sports, and all I was about sports growing up. Yeah. But it was in Alief, very humble beginnings. A lot of people have kind of like the came from nothing story, but similar to that, I won't try to play that up. I don't think that's as interesting anymore. A lot of people come from hard situations, but it did create a massive work ethic inside of me. I think whether my parents knew what they were doing or not, with especially with me, either they're geniuses or we just kind of came across some stuff, and things inside, like my work ethic got pulled out of me. I don't come from a very like there's no entrepreneurial background. I think my dad was the first in his family to graduate from college, and I was at his graduation. He worked like 4 jobs and went to school, had 8 kids, all of this stuff, and made it all work because he knew he had to better himself to go to school. So I remember being at his graduation, being like 6 years old. So I think that work ethic, obviously, he taught me that, and he taught me God. I mean, he knows everything about basically every religion you could ask him, not just Christianity, anything. He's a very studious person, so watching that. But as far as being entrepreneurial, thinking outside the box, none of that. There's none of that in my family at all. It was more along the lines of go to school, get good grades, get a good education, go to a university, graduate, work for a corporation. Oh yeah, marry the girl in church. Be no sex before marriage. Like get married at 18. Marry the girl at church, then get the corporation job, and you're stuck forever. That was kind of the path, just because that's all anyone knew. So, the way that I think is completely different from anyone else. I think in my family, so I didn't, I don't know when that was pulled out. I think it was a lot later, but that was pretty much how childhood was. It was just we're a bunch of kids running around reckless in A-Leaf. I was all about sports. That's how I related to people. Sure. That's how I chose my friend groups. I remember having to think about when I was getting older. I was like, it was mostly gangs. I mean, trying to figure out like what gang do I, can I really vibe with the best? And I was just like, I don't think that's all for me. I just want to like hoop and play football, and so that's how I made my friends really. And I was really good at sports. So that's how I connected with most of the people in my neighborhood. They knew I didn't really, I was available to play any time because I wasn't in school. Once I finished my school, I'd go out and play sports. So childhood was really just all about athletics. And then like my one little neighborhood, I never went more than my bicycle could take me, which was like maybe a half a mile. I never went anywhere. I mean, even until I was early 20s, and New York was the first major city I ever went to.
Yeah, so it seems like your parents were able to kind of instill a lot of really powerful traits, right? Work ethic, discipline. So those are all things that
I don't know if they were intentionally doing it.
Yeah,
that's the thing I think about. They somehow, I found these inside of me, but I didn't know I was finding them at the time. I look back on it now, and it seems like a different life.
Sure.
It seems like a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about some of the ways I am now, and how childhood and where I grew up and how I grew up, and my parents, and having 7 brothers and sisters to look after, and seeing how we live to make the bills so small so we could pay for them. And I mean, we do crazy stuff like I don't even mind saying that. For a long time I was embarrassed by some of the stuff, but I mean, so like your water bill, right? So one of the things that you have run your bathtub, I learned when I was 5 years old that how the toilet works. You literally can fill it up yourself. So we turn off the water in the toilet, you would flush it, and you would use a bucket from the bathtub from the water before, and you pour it in the top and then fill up the back. You use no water. It's literally recycling all of your water. The water bill's like $2 a month. Those are the types of things I was learning at 4 or 5, 6 years old. Canned food, buying food in bulk. I mean, if it wasn't in a 50-pound bag, it was beans, it was rice, it was corn, it was evaporated milk. I mean, things like that, and how to, keep your costs. I mean, I was learning this stuff while I was 4 or 5, 6 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which teaches you stuff down the line. I mean, budgeting, living within your means. You've got to be humble. Like you can't be. What are you going to be cocky about? The fact that I'm wearing like tennis shoes that were handed down from my brother, but they were hand-me-downs from the church. So like the church donated them, gave them to our family. My brother had to wear them first because he was older. So I had a hand-me-downs of hand-me-downs. There's not much to brag about, right?
Okay, so coming off of your childhood and you kind of growing up a little bit, you got those kind of core values that were just kind of naturally instilled from your parents. what was kind of your first maybe side hustle or project related to entrepreneurship that may have happened, or
Bro.
did you maybe take a more traditional
Yo,
route?
side hustle that got stolen from me by my older brother, right? So I'm learning tough business lessons, and this is, so I'll paint the picture. We're in an area of A-Leaf which is not desirable, but crazy enough, I'll still go by there every couple years to remind myself, where I've come from, and I drive the neighborhood, and I look at where I used to play every day, and I always remind myself of that. But so rewinding back, I'm probably 8 years old at this point, right? 7, 8 years. It was in the summertime. My birthday's in July, so I probably just turned 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my mom is, I don't know what I was doing, but it's raining outside. It's not a good day. My mom's like, take the trash out. I'm like, which we always had chores, like it was chores. And this idea of an allowance, there's no fucking allowance. Like, you do what you're told, and you better do it quickly type thing. Like, that's if you don't work, you don't eat. I can't remember how many times I heard that. So take the trash out. I'm like, man, it's wet. I don't want to be out here. I'm taking the trash out. It's a long walk. There's one area, and I'm thinking in my head, like, if I don't want to do this, though, nobody wants to be doing this. So if no one can take their trash out right now, like, I'll just go take it out for them, and people will have to pay me to do it. Mm-hmm. So took the trash out. I'm already wet now, so I'm just in the first door, knocked on it. Hey, I can take your trash out. They're like, what? For how much? And I'm like, I don't know, whatever you want to pay me, right? Didn't know pricing. Didn't know how to price my service, right? Didn't know how valuable it was. First person gives me their trash, shuts the door. But didn't give me anything. I'm like, yo, what? So luckily it was the first door, so I just threw it. Okay, next door, I'm like, I need to tell them like what I'm out here for, right? So I'm learning quickly. I'm learning business principles. 8 years old, I'm like, I can't do this shit for free, right? Next door, can I take your trash out? Slam the door in my face. Could have went home. No, next door. Nobody answers. I'm like, this is getting annoying at this point. 3 doors, 10 minutes, got no money, don't want to walk back to the trash again. Next door. Lady opens the door. Take your trash out. She's like, oh, really? For how much? And I'm like, either, and I can swear she's cooking something inside. I'm like, I'm kind of hungry too. So I was like, I can either do it for money, whatever change you have, or for some food or something. Literally. I just bartering now, right? It just smelled good. I was hungry. So she gave me like a cupcake or a cookie. Can't remember, some sort of baked good. I have a sweet tooth. Maybe that's where I got it from. So I'm like, this isn't bad, right? So I threw it away. Kept going door to door to door. I probably got 37, 40 cents, but I'm like, and I'm figuring out like, hey, this works. And I would remember which doors would give me money or had a cookie or candy for me. So I literally would go back to the ones, and a few weeks later, I'm racking up change. Like, I've got a little like sock drawer. I'm hiding my money in the corner because every time my mom would have me take the trash out, I'd make the rounds. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm like stockpiling change now. But my older brother saw that I had some money. Like, where are you getting this money from? And so I told him, and next thing I know, my business model is stolen. They're him and his friends door to door getting money. They're getting bills because they're bigger, know how to talk. Give me $5, whatever. So I lost my business very quickly as fast as I started it. That was the first business. From there I would sell my stuff to my friends. I would keep everyone out of the room that I was sharing with all of my brothers. We had like 2 bunk beds. There's 4 of us in one room, and I would lock them out, and nobody could get in. And they're like, "What is he doing in there?" To create the demand, right? And I would price all my junk, and I'd have people come in and look at my junk. I had a little Hot Wheels car, 20 cents. A little micro machine, a little miniature car, $1 or whatever. So I was doing stuff like that, even young.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. Coming up, we used to live in an apartment complex right next to a golf course, and the fence that blocks where the golfers would swing wasn't high enough. So you'd have like the best Callaway, the best golf balls you could think of, flying over, and it would collect in the bushes over the years. So I found out, I started collecting them. I would wash them.
Golf balls are expensive.
Yeah, and I would sell them right back to the golfers.
Pro V ones, Tyler Pro V ones, Callaway.
It was like $20-$30 every weekend, but then the other neighborhood kids started to see it, so they copied the business model too.
Bro, same thing. But so think about this is. So a lot of people are always trying to come up with something amazingly innovative and then do this or invent this, but think about just that basic need. there's a want or a need, or there's a problem and I have a solution. So right, it's so basic. So everyone always tries to figure out the brand new invention or this. They overcomplicate things sometimes, or they don't pay enough attention. So if you just were like, annoyed at the fact that golf balls are flying over, whatever, throw them back, you miss an opportunity. Absolutely. Right? So to me, if I'm just like mumbling about the fact I don't want to take trash out and I just hang my head and walk back home, I miss an opportunity. So it's not really, in a lot of ways, it's not that difficult. It's paying attention, to remove distractions, because if it was now, I would have been walking back on my cell phone, right? Playing a video game. I'm not paying attention to anything. Same thing for you. So it's remove distractions, open your eyes up, be present, look for opportunities, and then every great business is just an answer to a question or a solution to a problem for everything. So it's not that difficult in a lot of ways, but we've created, with all the distractions, you're not going to notice any opportunities at all, other than what's on your phone or not paying attention. I think Warren Buffett said, once in a lifetime opportunities come across twice a year, right? There's so many opportunities out there all the time, but if you're not paying attention and you're distracted, you're not ever going to see anything. Your head's going to be in the clouds or looking down or in your phone. And every great business model, it's just a solution to a problem or an answer to a question in all cases, whether it's golf balls, whether it's garbage.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, waste management companies, billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. So I think something you said that really stuck out there is how distracted we are, right, in this day and age with the access to phones. So like your phone is either going to be the greatest tool in your pocket, or it's going to be your greatest
or your worst
distraction.
Enemy. Yeah, it's going to be your worst enemy.
So with like that access that we have today, I feel like it's even easier to start a business in 2024, right? Because just that reach you have, right? You could drop a YouTube video, drop an Instagram post, and reach and touch millions of people, where in the past you couldn't do that, right? No. It was newspapers, it was knocking on doors.
Imagine some of the things that you had to do then to grow or scale your business versus now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the tools that are available now. Nobody has the excuse anymore. Nobody. Like, if you're with everything that's available to make money, become successful, start a business, like, you have so many tools. It's unreal. The opportunities right now are completely endless.
So kind of continuing the story, right? What was next kind of in your life after that initial side hustle? Did you end up, going to college? Did you end up taking a more traditional route? What ended up happening?
There were a lot of creative businesses, a lot of, some of which I won't go into. But there was always, whatever the business was, there was always this idea, I guess, in my head that I knew that, again, it was interesting. We didn't have a lot, but it was happy, right? Yeah. Like, I didn't wake up like, at some point in time, though, I started realizing like how, I hadn't had a new shirt that was literally new ever. You know what I mean? Like, whenever you're literally getting hand-me-downs. I mean, we would go to church, and there was this, I won't say any name, but there was this one family that would love to donate to the McDonald family. And they would announce it in church. I'd be heated. Like, how are you really? So, in church saying, hey, we have donations for the McDonald family back in the back. I'd look in the back, and it'd be in trash bags. And I'm like, what? We're in church? Like, come on, really? Like, I don't. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, hey, this family, like, to me, is rich. Like, I'm gonna get some good shit, right? I can't wait to rip that bag open, because a couple of them had a little bit of style, right? So half of me is like Christmas, and the other half is like, how the fuck are you gonna disrespect it? You know what I mean? But always, my mom would be like, go say thank you, go say thank you. After church, go say thank you. I'm like, I really want to slap him, much less say thank you. You got to be kidding me, right? But I did what my mom was told, always had to do whatever my mom said. So again, humble, teaching you how to act and things like that. But it was, I didn't realize those types of things until I was starting to get older. And I'm like, I've never had a new article of clothing. I've never had a new pair of shoes, right? So you start kind of getting those like, all right, I need to figure this out. I need to start making some more money. How am I going to do that, right? So that was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then I got a little bit sidetracked from in high school when I started being, better at sports and realizing I had an option to go to college on an athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
So I very quickly kind of deviated from all my little side hustles and businesses naturally to just really going hard into athletics. So all through high school, it was about, sports. I was naturally more gifted at baseball and football. My dad was a very good college linebacker, but never really wanted me to play football. But I was naturally good at football, baseball, but I love basketball. And nobody thought I could get an athletic scholarship in basketball at ever. That wasn't my natural talents and abilities. I'm just about 6'4", but couldn't really jump like crazy. Wasn't the quickest. At that height, you gotta,
Move, yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of the natural ability that you kind of have to have, but I worked hard at it. And everyone was like, you're not going to get a scholarship, you're not going to get a scholarship. And the more I heard that, I was like, fuck all y'all, I'm going to get a scholarship, I promise you. So I wore, for a year, I wore ankle weights. And I would practice in ankle weights. I'm like, I'm going to get quick. When I take these off, I'm going to be like, so I would go to church, pants over my ankle weights. I didn't take them off. I'd run, I'd do sprints, everything. Back in the day, they were called strength shoes. It was it was guaranteed to increase your vertical by a foot, like crazy, right? Basically, it was just like Air Force Ones with these platforms on the toes. So you would do all of your workouts on your toes to develop all the, quick twitch fibers and stuff and be able to jump. Couldn't afford those, but I realized what the concept was. So I'm like, you just do everything on your toes. I can figure this out. So I would do all these parametrics on my toes, increase my vertical, quickness was going crazy. My younger brother he got all the natural basketball ability. He was cold and could shoot like crazy. So I started watching him and how he would practice. And he'd be putting up thousands of shots a day. So I got my jump shot right. Worked on my crossover. So I got good. And I parlayed it all into a college scholarship in Houston. So it was all about athletics, all about sports. That's who I was, what I was, all through high school, and then into my collegiate career. So all about athletics after, and it was a way too. Like again, A-Leaf. There's not, you're not looking in A-Leaf. You're looking at not a lot of role models, right? What people are doing that my friends in A-Leaf were doing. My parents probably, close your ears, mom. Mom doesn't even probably still know. Drugs, committing crimes, robbing, stealing. There wasn't people going to Harvard and Yale. So, and nobody was talking about business or what they were going to do. It was, you're gonna hustle or you're gonna play sports and you're gonna get a scholarship, and that was it. So that was the only focus and the only way I was trying to figure out how to get out of that neighborhood as well. All the haters that were like, you're not fast enough, you're not quick enough, you can't jump high enough, you can't shoot, don't pass well. Again, turned it into a college scholarship.
Absolutely.
So
kind of coming off of athletics and finishing up school, did you end up taking as they say, a more traditional route? Did you ever work in the corporate world for a while? And then maybe at what age did you realize, okay, this is cool, I'm getting some money, but maybe this isn't Micah forever, right? At what point did you kind of realize that?
So it's interesting what happened whenever I got, the college scholarship to play basketball out of all sports. If I'd have played baseball, I'd probably be at Yankee Stadium right now or something. Yeah, it'd be different, right? So, but I got the college scholarship and I went to university to play. And you would think I would be happy. I hated playing I hated it. So I loved it through high school. I loved my team. I loved my friends that I had built. We were such a close group. We bonded over tragedy and 1 year. I was so close to that team in high school. Then you go to university and it's so different. Everyone is collectively the best player from their respective high schools. You don't have that camaraderie. You didn't grow up together. You're fighting for playing time and positions and for girls at the university, and you know you're going head to head, right? There's a couple people you're connecting with and bonding with, but for the most part, it's you're competing against each other. Um, you know, I wasn't really connecting to, you know, really any of the players on the team. I remember I would go to class, I would go to practice, and I'd go back home. And by then, all my family had moved from Houston. They got out of the neighborhood, right? And I stayed. I stayed and lived in the house I grew up in. It was like, how much is this a month? I asked my dad, how much you pay a month for this? He told me. I was like, I'll figure that out. I'm gonna come up with that. I'll just stay here. So my whole family moved with all the furniture. The whole house is empty now, and I'm sitting here walking around this house alone, just because that's all I knew is A-Leaf, my street, my neighborhood, my house. That's what I was connected to. And I'd come home. So I'd go to practice, I'd go to school, go home. I was supposed to live in the dorm. I broke that rule. You know, if they ever had a dorm check, one of the guys would tell me I'd go play like I was at the dorm. I think they figured out I wasn't living there. But you know, that's all I know. And I stayed in A-Leaf, but I hated it. And after the first year, I was like, you know, I'm not going to do this. And I quit. And at that point, I realized real quickly. So if I'm not playing basketball, I don't get a scholarship, right? So I'm like, oh shit, what do I do now? The last 6-7 years of my life was all about, I was an athlete. That's how other people viewed me. We were good in high school. We traveled the country. It was a homeschool team, but we could play. We had 7 people that, you know, top 7 that just ran. And we would come into schools all across the country that were ranked very, very high, and we would run them. I mean, it was fun. So you have a lot of, you know, that's how I just related growing up. And then I lost all that when I quit, and then I lost my scholarship, and I'm like, had to start trying to figure stuff out. Regrouped. I just knew that, like, I go back to the old principles. I knew, okay, you go to college. I'm like, all right, I can't afford the same school I was at, so I had to drop out of there. The only school I could try to scrape up enough money for was Houston Community College. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you know, I got to figure out the fastest way to get through this for the least amount of money. So I figured out which classes I needed to take, how much money was it going to cost me, and started just piecemealing it all together, because now I'm just going for this, you know, college degree, right? Just because I didn't know what else I wanted to be doing. And you know, still, even my parents being like 500-600 miles away at that point, was like they weren't going to let me be a bum either. Yeah. So I think even from a distance, they were still influencing me to, okay, get in school, do something with yourself. Because you know, at that point, I had no idea. I hadn't thought about it. In my brain, I was going to play basketball in the NBA, or worst case scenario, internationally. Like worst case, I might end up like in Turkey eating like baklava. You know, I've heard like one of my boys played he bounced around every year, and I was following him, and he was in Germany. He was doing this, and then I was like, worst case, that's going to be me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know, that's gone, and then I'm like, oh shit, like what am I doing now? I'm not an athlete anymore. I have no real recognition for anything now. I'm just really a broke 20-year-old with no plans and no future at Houston Community College.
Absolutely. So coming off of, you know, like being that age, right, being 20 years old, what did you end up doing? Did you end up kind of just finishing school?
And on my own. And I was a knucklehead. Nobody could really tell me anything. Like not a bad, it was just like, I've never learned any lessons other than the really hard way. Yeah. So like nobody could really tell me, nor I wasn't asking for advice either, right? So I still had like that pride of a man, you know, like, all right, yeah. So like, you can't tell me anything. Like, what are you gonna tell me? Like, sure. I got this. I'm 20. Mm-hmm. I've been living in my house. You know, I haven't figured. I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't reaching out to anyone. I was like, how am I gonna make this shit work? Yeah. You know, I knew I needed to get a part-time job, which I was able to find. I had all my classes at Houston Community College. I knew I needed to transfer those to a bigger school. So I knew how like the system worked, and I was like, okay, if I follow the system, like worst case scenario, like I get the job, I go. So I was just following the system at that point. So forever it was athletics, you know, play professionally. Then it became all about like, okay, get this degree. How's the best way to tackle getting this degree?
Yeah.
And I took all my basics at Houston Community College, and I rolled them into University of Houston, and was going to finish at University of Houston. So and ended up graduating from there a few years later, and I'm a good test taker. So I know how the system works. You study, memorize some stuff until you take a test, spit it back out, delete it from my brain. Like I was good at that. Was the routine. Memorize it, delete, memorize, delete. Take the test, pass, delete. And then was highly interviewed by corporations out of college, and ended up going to work for ExxonMobil. So I took a leap into corporate America, and immediately hated it.
How long did that last?
Bro, man, mentally a week. But again, like I knew the system. I'm like, all right, okay. It didn't take me long to figure this out. You're my manager. You get here at 7:30. I get here at 7:25, and I'm at my desk. You walk by, hey buddy,
Good to see you.
Hey, been here for hours. Where you at? See you for lunch. I know. Like it was very quick to start just blend in. And okay, you get there at 7:30, you leave at 5. I'm gonna leave at 5:05. He's gonna see me at my desk whenever he walks in. He's gonna see me at my desk when he leaves. I would type emails throughout the day and leave them in my inbox and wait to send them until later on that night. So after work, I would leave at 5:05. I would go to the gym, hang out, do whatever. I'd come back to the office around 7:38, send out my emails.
Yeah.
So now everyone's like, man, this motherfucker's really out here till 8 p.m.
He's
grinding. Here. Yeah, he's here. He's here. But I wouldn't send them all. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna send a few at 6:30. Right? I might get in a little. Mm-hmm. So they're literally calculating it out. Managers were. So I got selected for this fast track program to be an executive or something. So quickly, I knew how to work the system. They're like, man, this motherfucker's the hardest worker in Houston. Like he's gonna people. They put me in a program where executives were taking me to lunch once or twice a month and talking to me about my plans, and I was on the executive fast track.
Yeah.
So I played the system well. In my head though, I was like, this is all bullshit. Yeah. This is a literal waste of every fucking day. Yeah. And I'm being held here you're against my will. As weeks went on, I would get more and more just infuriated about how my life was going, sitting there. Just feeling like I'm wasting away.
So at that time you were
but knew how to play the game.
Absolutely, yeah. So at that time you were probably like 23, 24?
Yep, exactly.
And how much were you making at that time? Because I know...
I thought I was rich at that point in time. So the ExxonMobil gave me a $5,000 signing bonus, which I made it.
Yeah.
You're going to give me what? And $50,000 a year.
Yeah, okay.
That was my starting. $50,000 a year, $5,000 signing bonus, and I thought I was rich. And again, there's little moments that set me back. So I remember telling my dad, and I was like, I'm gonna go get this apartment. And at the time I was living to get through school, my entire monthly expenses were $525. I had a garage apartment that my sister helped me found, which was literally a room. You open the door and you hit my twin bed, and it had a miniature oven. It was like a little hobbit kitchen. It was small. $300 a month. I had an old broke down Nissan Altima maroon. Airbags had popped out and taped shut. Nothing. It was paid off. It was worth a couple thousand at the most. Insurance was. I went to Fiesta, got the cheapest insurance. I was $525 a month is all it took. Yeah. And so I was about to get that job at Exxon and blow it up. Hey, I'm not living, I'm gonna open my door freely now. I'm gonna get a king size bed. I'm gonna get a 1-bedroom apartment. I can live downtown now. And I remember telling my dad, and he's like, why would you do that? How much does that cost? And he backed me into the numbers. And I don't even think I've ever talked to him, but he's the one who's like, so you're gonna work for them. You already don't like it. You're gonna work for them, and you're gonna spend all of your money every month. So now you can drive a Honda Accord. Hey, but it's new, right? I got my Honda Accord. I got my 1-bedroom apartment in downtown. I don't have a downtown view yet. Can't afford that, but
you're in downtown.
And I'm going to spend all of my money every month and be a complete slave to ExxonMobil. And he put that idea in my mind. I'm like, oh hell no! Why would I want to do that? I don't want to be there anyway. So I stayed living in my garage apartment. I ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch while everyone else was going out and spending $10, $12 on their lunch. I had a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter and jelly. I was eating for 17 cents a day. I'm like, I'm not going to be stuck here. No matter what, I'm not going to be stuck here. And that's how I was living for $525 a month while making my $50,000 a year, or whatever. So margin wise, I was doing great, but my dad taught me that principle very quickly, and it stuck with me. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna just keep living exactly the way. I mean, I remember like my coworkers would laugh at my car, but I was used to that. Right? Everyone laughed at my shoes, car, same thing. When I was growing up, I mean, the whole neighborhood was laughing at everything I wore, laughing at like how we lived. Like, so fuck it, it wasn't any different for me. I was used to that. But I'm like, but hey, fast forward to now, all those same people, and nobody's laughing anymore.
Nobody's laughing anymore, right?
Nobody's laughing anymore. So, a lot of them are still sitting at the same fucking desk they were sitting at whenever I left.
Yep.
So I was there for a little over 2 years.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. So obviously, Mike, I know you know whether you're making a $50K a year salary, right, in the corporate world, or you're making, let's say, $300K. All of them match their lifestyle to whatever their salary is. So
absolutely,
if it's paycheck to paycheck, and then if they lose their job, they lose everything. They lose the Mercedes. They lose their house, the mortgage they're paying. So a lot of people are living like that.
And it happens all day long, every day. It's happening to people
right now,
right behind us. It's happening to people in Billionaires Row. When your living expenses are going up at the same pace as you're earning, how are you really that much different to somebody who's making $50,000 a year? If you're making $500 and spending $500, I'm making 50 and 50. Yeah, you might have a nicer car. I'm still getting to work just like you. You might, but if you're spending everything you're making and living paycheck to paycheck, how are you any different? Because the second your, boss or supervisor decides you're expendable, the second you fuck up and do something stupid or whatever, and that paycheck is gone, then you're broke. I don't care what you look like today. Like, don't show me like how much money you make, right? Show me how much money you have, how much money you save. Like, that's why I'm unimpressed by things. Oh, you drive a nice car? I don't care. Like that's $4,000. So you make at least $4,000 a month. You're driving it. I know how much cars cost. Like, if you make $5,000, if you have $5,000 a month in decent credit, you can drive a Rolls Royce, a new one. So that's not very impressive. And I've seen so many people that do live up to that, and all of a sudden that job or whatever is gone, and they're broke, and they have nothing left. It happens all the time, and that's just not the way that I started out at all.
Absolutely. So you did 2 years at ExxonMobil. Now you were being frugal, like you were saying. You saved up some money. Did you have some capital going into your first business, or what did that?
It's
first
all
business
about eyes. It's eyes open. Yeah. This goes back to, the 8-year-old wandering around the apartment complex looking for garbage to take. To your eyes are open. You're looking for opportunities. I had no idea what I wanted to be doing. I had no interest in anything, right? I'm sitting there, I'm going to work. Even the degree I picked, I was in IT. I knew that was a great, thing to go into, right? I know the system. I know the rules that you have to play by and the systems that are created and how to play in those systems. I've always been good at that. It's how to move, and especially it's good when you don't know what to do. If you have no clue what you want to do with yourself at all, is it good to go to university? That's a whole nother conversation, right? And I have a lot of thoughts about that. But maybe if you have nothing better to do, yeah, that's cool. But the key is keeping your eyes open to opportunities. So I'm work every day. I'm killing it, right? I'm sending my emails out at 8, even though I, took a walk and sat in the park for 3 hours. I know what I'm doing. They're looking to promote me to, sweet level. By the time I'm like 26 at this point, they love me. Everyone loved me. And I hated it every day and couldn't stand being there every day. But I had my eyes, everything just open to any other opportunities that I could possibly come by. And another one presented itself that did not need a lot of capital. It just needed intellect and know-how, and to be able to study, to get a license, and then roll into that first business. So it didn't need a lot of money. I didn't need financing. I just needed hard work. I needed to be smart enough to pass a test in order to get a license. And under that license, I could start working in that particular industry and that opportunity that I looked at. But the key is is having your eyes open and removing some of these distractions so that you have the opportunity to even recognize an opportunity and not completely losing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Micah, as you were kind of pivoting out of the the corporate world, what were some of those opportunities that maybe caught your eye, and then what was your first taste of success in business? Really, I know maybe you kind of dabbled into a couple different industries, but what was that true taste of, hey, like I got something here, maybe this we could start really pushing in this direction?
And that definitely came like years after.
Yeah.
Like my thought process is at kind of that pivotal point you reach, all through everyone's life. I'm sure you can like think about times like where you reach a point and there's the fork in the road, right?
Definitely.
And which way are you going to go? Or do you just, a lot of people will just stay there, right? Some people have been at the fork in the road a long time, right? And still haven't chose the side. So at that point, I'm reaching a fork in the road to, I've got everyone who I did listen to, family, friends, stay at Exxon Mobil, stay at Exxon. Like, you'd be an idiot to leave.
Yeah.
You'd be an idiot to try to, you've got yourself, your foot's in the door, they've got you on a fast track, you're going to be an executive, whatever, stay. And in my head, I'm like, for what, the next 20 years? Like, are you kidding me? I remember having lunch with those people, and I'm like, I don't want to be you. Like, I told one lady, like, I was asking her a question. She's like, oh, what's your 5-year? I was like, what's your 5-year plan? Like, when's the last time you had a vacation with your family that you didn't, weren't on your laptop? Mm-hmm. Like, are you happy? Like, I was flipping it back to them, and I was like, we're wasting each other's time. We're never gonna. I remember the last one I had, I was like, we're never having another lunch again. Yeah. This is great. I'm just not staying there. And I mean, at that point in time, I built a rapport, and they liked me and stuff, and they'd laugh. And one of them was like, I knew you had bigger things than here. I knew you weren't going to be here long. I could tell, right? Mm-hmm. So, wish me luck type thing. So, but just eyes are always open, and when I identified the one opportunity, it was in kind of a financial services industry, and it was basically it's intellect and knowledge. So it's not a lot, it's not capital up front, it's not a product, it's not things like that. So it's similar to like a Series 7 or a Series 3 that you're having to study for an exam. So if I want to be a stockbroker, again, fitting we're in New York, Wall Street's that way. If I want to be a stockbroker, I've got to pass a Series 7. If I want to be a commodities broker, I think that's a Series 3, right? Anyone can do it. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to have a financial degree. You can turn 18 years old, I think, if you want, and take the Series 7 and Series 3 and pass it. You can actively, trade stocks and commodities for people. So I took this exam. It wasn't a Series 7 or Series 3, but I took this exam and passed it. Extremely hard pass rate. But again, my learn information, retain it, take a test, delete, kicked in right away, and I passed it my first time around. And then I was able to step into this industry and start pretty much immediately. Again, you didn't need much capital, didn't need anything other than intellect, a computer, a telephone, and like a massive work ethic.
Absolutely.
So that's whenever I started. I was so afraid to leave Exxon, like all those voices, don't leave, you'd be an idiot, you'd be stupid, you'd be, I didn't have the same confidence level I had back in the athletics world because, at this point in time, I wasn't fit anymore. I wasn't in, NBA shape.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't at the peak, so I wasn't at the peak of my mental capacity either. I'd had a girlfriend who cheated on me, and then like I wasn't at the best point, like as far as just being able to cut and run. So I negotiated for a leave of absence from the company instead of a full departure, because I wanted that safety net just in case this failed to fall back into it. I still to this day I don't know what the HR person did to give me that leave of absence, but I got it. And so I had a bit of a safety net to tippy toe into this world. Yeah. But as soon as I started making as much as I was making at Exxon, I was comfortable to sever ties completely. Because again, keep in mind, I'm still living for $525 a month. I don't need much, right? Yeah. So I cut ties and just went into the business world, the entrepreneurial business world full time.
Absolutely. And I think fast forwarding obviously till now, right? You've built businesses in various industries. You've also done a lot of real estate investing as well. At what age did you become, a millionaire? Because that's obviously kind of like the golden rule, or the goal that everyone strives for. At what age did you eventually become a millionaire through these businesses?
Yeah. The 28 was I was 28, about to be 29. Was whenever I had the first millionaire moment. It's weird. So going into it though. So my motivating factors, going into like being an entrepreneur was more freedom than anything.
Sure.
I never liked being told what to do. That's why homeschooling didn't bother me, because the last thing I wanted is to have some teacher telling me what to do. I went to first grade and I hated being told what to do in first grade. Much less as an adult, right? They say stand in line. I would step to the left just to piss them off, because I'm like, why am I? I'm 6. I'm like, I don't want to stand in the fucking line. I can't see. I'm staring at the back of the head of this boy I don't like. I'm gonna stand to the left, right? That was always me. I just didn't want someone else to have any control over my future and my destiny. I didn't want my manager at ExxonMobil to, like me or not like me, and one day I'm fired, whatever. That wasn't gonna be me. That was the driving factor. Is just I want freedom, and I want no one else in charge of my ultimate destiny other than myself. It was never the idea or concept to be a millionaire was never an idea in my early mid-20s. That wasn't a concept. It wasn't something. I didn't know millionaires. I didn't hang around millionaires. At that point in my life, I really only knew A-Leaf and Houston. I never really deviated from that. So I didn't have I didn't have people I were looking up to for stuff like that. To me, it was like, I'd love to get out of this, garage apartment. I would love to open a door and it not hit my bed. I'd love to drive a car that the airbags are actually still intact in the steering wheel and the dash, instead of super glue. These were little things, right? Little steps. It wasn't about being a millionaire until you become a millionaire, and then you're like, oh shit. And then you think like, oh, I've made it. But then you don't really feel any. I didn't really feel any different, right? I just have a lot of zeros in my bank account now, which made me obviously start feeling like I have freedom. I have the ability to have more choices now and flexibility. And it wasn't like an aha moment of, oh, I made it. I've talked to other people who reached that moment, and they're like, they call people, or I guess whatever, and they call their mom or their parents or their friends, or fucking, I don't call anyone. I kept that shit so quiet. I'm over here driving a beat up truck at the time. I was out of the Ultima, but I was still, I kept it so quiet.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
quiet, and didn't have any feeling in my mind like, oh, I've made it, or oh, that wasn't really a thing until you start getting exposure to the things that money buys you. And then it kind of put me in a different chapter of life, going into my early 30s and starting to get a taste of money, and then using it, because I didn't stay frugal. Not like that. Eventually, obviously, look around now. We got obviously I'm not over here. I'm not the example of the guy driving the Camry.
Yeah.
At all. So it did change a bit, but the mindset of being balanced has always been there, from a standpoint of, I don't think I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm still on the journey. Where I am on that plane, somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely.
But I know for a fact I haven't made it. I have so much more to do. I haven't even become to be close to the potential I think is within me that I have to unleash in order to be where I'm supposed to be. I'm still not there.
Absolutely. So it seems like your time horizon, whether you knew it or not, if you think about it, right, 22, 23 in the corporate world, it took you till about 28 to get that first million. And a lot of people don't realize that that's like a good 6-7 years that you were working and trying and looking for opportunity. A lot of people today, they think they start a business today, and by next week or the next year, right, they're going to be a millionaire. That's just not how it works, right?
We live in a fast society, right? Everything is, you want it instant. And that's tough because when you have a lot of younger people or people that are just jumping into that world, they expect faster results. Yeah. And things do move a lot faster than they ever have. Your ability to be successful now is can be very quick. This idea of grinding stuff out for 10, 15, 20 years, if I'm grinding a business out 10 years, I failed, I'm going to move, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to, because things move so much faster now. It's opportunity cost, right? It's how much time am I putting into something, which is costing me the ability to put it somewhere else that could make it. So a lot of people are like, oh, if I grind this one business out long enough and hard enough, I'm going to be successful. That's not true. Not true at all. Things move way too fast.
Yeah.
The key is to have tell that to some like Blockbuster or something. I don't care how successful you are, even if you make it in one industry, tomorrow that industry could completely change, and where are you at then? You always have to be strategic. You always have to be playing chess, not checkers. You always have to be looking for the next opportunity. And I'm always scanning for new opportunity. I'm not the one trick pony and a lot of people tell you, oh, stick to one thing, be a master of one instead,
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Again, tell that to the Blockbusters of the world that are gone.
Yeah, they didn't adapt right to the.
You have to. That goes back to keeping your eyes and ears open and trying to remove as much distraction as humanly possible, so you see those opportunities and you're able to kind of guide and navigate through them as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think obviously succeeding in one industry or one business is already, a difficult task, right? You've done so in multiple industries, right? Not just one. What is Micah's blueprint or checklist for actually identifying an opportunity, right? So again, whether you're a 20-year-old out there, whether you're a 30-year-old that's just diving into being an entrepreneur, or even if you're at a more advanced level, what is like your criteria for identifying if this business or this model is worth pursuing?
Yeah, it changes over time. Again, learned lessons for me are always the hard way, always. I learn by trial and error, which, for whatever it is, I guarantee you the lessons I learn are hard and I don't repeat them, right? So now when I'm analyzing certain businesses, so I'm looking at different sets of businesses now, and everything is always, I have to look at it from a standpoint of, is it scalable and does it have an exit? Everyone's different, but I have no interest in sitting here and grinding out a company for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I say 5, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, depending on the industry. But it's got to be something that is scalable and has a clear exit to be able to sell and move on. Scalability from a standpoint, and to some aspect, some sort of digital or subscription model based against it. So right now I love looking at opportunities like plumbing companies, electrical companies, things like that have generally been old school trades. They're not sexy, they're not exciting, they print money. Still to this day, laundromats are some of the most successful businesses. If you're like me working at Exxon, you're like, I'm making $55,000 a year, like, I don't know what I should do. Well, go start a laundromat. You'll make that. You won't make much more, but at least you'll be working for yourself. And then that might bring another opportunity instead of just sitting there, slaving away. I think laundromats, on average, if you do any of the research, I think they make $65,000 to $70,000 a year net. For one location. You're going to work hard, but you figure out other income streams on top of it. Maybe you go to the local hotel and tell them you'll wash all their stuff and create different revenue streams. Maybe set up a laundry detergent and little dryer sheets and things like that, or a vending machine in the corner. Maybe there's an ATM. You can add some scalability to it, right? Yeah. And then repeat it over and over again. So I'm looking at businesses like that. So is there scalability? Can I rent? Because I have no interest in doing things that aren't a certain amount of money anymore either. If it's not going to make a certain amount of money per month or per year, it's not worth my time or energy. It's opportunity cost again. So it's got to be scalable to a massive level and have a clear exit and be attractive to somebody to buy.
Sure. And I think you made a really good point here about just kind of finding the right opportunity for your given, like where you're at in life. So I'll give you an example. In this day and age, right? Whenever a new business trend pops off, so there was Amazon FBA, drop shipping, all these different little models that come up because of these internet gurus. A lot of people kind of dive headfirst, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to succeed in that model, because at the end of the day, all business models work if you do it right. For the person out there that's watching this, like for example, I think it's overly ambitious to go and try to necessarily build like a financial software, right? And if you have no
Right.
you have no business experience,
Right.
right?
Right.
You know, piecing all of that together.
Right.
What is your thoughts on that? Like, is there certain businesses you should probably get into first as an opportunity, like opportunity versus your own skill set, or are you also with the side of just jumping into something very difficult and figuring it out? Where's that balance? How do you find that balance as an entrepreneur?
To me, so in my mind, in the way that I view it, is everybody at some point in time, regardless of where they are today, started knowing nothing about whatever they're an expert or a master at this point.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, well, maybe Elon Musk might be an anomaly. He might have come out of the womb understanding space travel and cyber trucks and everything. So him aside, most people don't know anything about what they're in until they start the journey, right?
So,
The key though is you have to understand like who you are as a person and what's your skill set. If I'm horrible at talking to people, am I going to do good in sales? Probably not. If I have a fear of heights, do I want to clean windows on skyscraper? You have to be honest with yourself. Okay, what are my personal benefits? Everyone's good at some things. They need to just be honest with themselves. What am I good at? What am I not? What am I interested in? What am I not? That's a key point to start to go into anything. And at that point in time, I don't care if you know it or not. Like I knew nothing about real estate at all.
mm-hmm.
Talk about diving in. One of my first project in Southern California is an 8-figure home. And I had only done like a few townhomes before that. Talk about diving in and taking a risk. But I love it. It's something I'm passionate about. No matter what happens, I'm going to figure it out because that's something I want to be doing. So I don't care what I'm going to tackle it. Now, instead, and the profit margin on that home, a few $1 million, right? So the same way I could have someone who's throwing drop shipping in my ear on IG every 10 minutes, right? Look at me, look at my Lambo, look at my hot chick. I got this all through my drop shipping. Pay me $59 a month and learn how I did it. And I'm like, you know what? I want a Lambo and I want a hot chick. I'm going to pay this dude $59 a month and I'm going to be like him. And I'm going to, do you really want to fucking drop ship? I don't care how much money it could make me $100 million a month. I wouldn't fuck with drop shipping. I don't care. It's the last thing I would do with my time. I have no energy for it. I don't care. I don't care how much money you make. Do I want to be a drop shipper? Hell no. Like there's some stuff that just doesn't connect with me.
Yeah.
So I think some people need to take a step back and say, okay, stop trying to connect with someone based on their car, their lifestyle, and say I'm going to do what they're doing, and really take a step back and be like, what am I good at? What are my talents? And then just start 10xing, believe in yourself, and put 10x down on that, not on what someone else did. And then you will figure out the rest in whatever you want to go into. I don't think you need to be an expert. You can start anywhere you want, but you need to be honest with yourself about who you are as a person and what you are really willing to do in order to get what you want. And how are you going at it? Stop copying people. Like this whole idea of like, I just need to be around you and follow what you're doing, and then I'm going to have a life like yours, I think is a trend that is I think pathetic in a lot of ways. To sit here and just be like, I'm as a grown man sitting here in front, I'm not going to sit here and copy another grown man. I'm going to figure some shit out and do it myself. That's just me, that's just my personality. But this idea that somehow just by rubbing shoulders with me, you're going to have a lifestyle like me, it's not going to happen. I've put in the work. I've rolled up my sleeve. I've done more hard work than 99.9% of people are willing to do ever. Whether it was cleaning toilets when I was young, like I wasn't getting away with cleaning a toilet 50% of the way. Like my mom would come and expect my toilet cleaning and to make sure it was perfect. So whether it's cleaning toilets, whether it's building houses in Beverly Hills, whether it's being on a Netflix massive global hit, which y'all should probably bring me back, I'm just saying. A lot of people that watch season 8 are hitting me up like, yo, why are they bringing you back? They're literally waiting 3 seasons. Anyway, another topic. But you have to have some pride in what you're doing, and be honest with yourself. What are you good at, and what are you willing to do? Because if you don't have a connection to whatever it is, you're gonna hate it. I don't care how much money you have. You have to be honest with yourself, and then really understand your talents, and then 10x, double down on that, and believe in yourself no matter what, on what you're good at. But be honest with yourself about what you're good at, and then whatever direction you want to go. I don't care if you know anything about it or not. Take a risk, take a chance on yourself.
Yeah, a good kind of criteria that I always think about is like, one, set a goal so you have a direction to go in.
It's intent.
Yeah.
Like
What's your intention? Yeah.
It's your intent. We were talking the other day about, so the first business trip ever, New York City. I knew nothing about business, or I'm about to go into a conference room that was sitting on the 73rd floor overlooking Park Avenue. I'm 26 years old, and everyone in that meeting is at least twice as old as me, and I'm in a suit that doesn't fit. I think I told you a bird had just shit all over my shoulder. Like, I didn't know, I had no, and going into situations like that, but I knew what I was good at. I'm good at reading the room. I mean, you have to slow things down a little bit. I'm good at reading the room. I'm good at adapting into any situation possible. I grew up in the streets. My mom's taking me to church. I've got to blend with the church people. My mom's making me hang out with her friends, so I've got to be an adult and know how to properly address adults. I'm hanging out with the street kids, so I need to know how to move in that environment. They're taking me out of there to play Little League in the nicer neighborhood, so I got to know how to hang out with the nicer kids so they're not scared of me from the street. Like, I know how to adapt in situations, and that's what I'm very good at. I know how to observe. I know how to listen. I know how to read the room. I know how to solve problems. I know the value that I'm adding to the situation, and I'm humble, and I'm not trying to overreach. I do what I say what I'm going to do. I'm very honest and straightforward with it in business. So that's what I knew was what I brought to the table, with a little bit of a charisma. So I remember walking into that meeting having no idea what I was going to do or say, and just broke the ice on the bird shitting all over me. And I knew that was good. That meant good luck. I think in Asian folklore or something like that. I'm sure I Googled it at the time. And I told him, I'm like, we don't even need to meet. This is predestined. The bird gods have already written this out. We're doing business together, so we can just skip to celebrating, at dinner. And I got, it's a big room. It's 15 people. I got 3 or 4 laughs. That's all I needed to soften up the room and get a little bit of interaction going. Everyone didn't laugh, obviously, but the 3 or 4 that softened up to me, I mean, it opened the conversation up, and it flew from there. So I knew I had to control the room as soon as possible. I knew I had to make fun of myself, which, again, I grew up. I was wearing my sister's hand-me-downs at one point. Talking about like being able to joke around about the fact I'm in little tiny red shorts, and like high tube socks. Like, I'm running around the streets looking hilarious. So I'm used to certain things. So I just take those things that I'm good at into a situation that I literally was so green in, and then just adapt to it, and just double down on myself and have confidence in what I bring to the table. If I tried to act like something I wasn't, or overstep on the value that I'm bringing to the situation, or things like it wouldn't have been successful. So I just got back to the core of the things that I'm good at, and doubled down on that. And the meeting went well. I did end up signing them as a client. And we did end up celebrating, but it was just me really understanding myself. And even though I was scared shitless going into the situation with so much nerves and everything, I just had to get back to who, I was and what I was good at, and stick with that. And it guided me through the hard situations until I became a fucking expert at what I was doing in control rooms, because I was the smartest one in them and the hardest worker in them. And that's a different feeling, walking in to those situations, knowing that you are the expert and you know more than everyone in the room collectively. And it was getting to that point. But starting in that business, I wasn't that guy. I just had to focus on what I was good at, and until I got to be that guy. I had a whole row of people in a conference table, like 20 people, and I walk in, and it's me against 20 right off the bat. But I remember the view behind them. They were on, again, like 70th floor, unreal views.
Yeah.
Better than even what we're looking at here, right? And I remember thinking, the first thing that popped in my head was, oh, this view is amazing, right? And I'm thinking about, I'm like, what am I going to do in this situation? They're teaming up against me. Like, how the fuck do I get control of this room, right? So I remember walking in and ignoring them. They had one chair on this side of them, and there was 20 on the other side. And I walked around, again, I'm 26 maybe at this point, walk around and ignore them all in their suits. And like, it's very intimidating. They did it on purpose. It's very intimidating. Yeah. And I walked past all of them and I just started staring at the view. And I remember my heart beating so heavy at the time because my back's to them. No one said a word. They're not saying anything. They're looking at me like, is this guy fucking crazy? Like,
this was the first meeting in New York, right?
No, this was a couple after, yeah.
Okay.
I was probably 6 months out from the first one. And I'm looking out at the thing and my heart's beating fast, and all I could think about was the fact that this view is gorgeous. So I was like, man, this is the most amazing view of New York City I've ever seen in my life. Why are all you guys sitting with your backs to it? Yeah. Right? And that's literally, that's how I broke the ice to them. And again, it was a couple chuckles, right? I made my point, like, and it was just enough to get a couple of them. I was like, why don't some of y'all switch sides? Like, come over here. Like, I don't want to be the only one. Then I'm just talking shit. Then I'm in the locker room at that point. Then it's like basketball. You're just talking shit at that point. Yeah. I'm like, yo, why don't some of y'all come over here and enjoy the view with me? I can't be selfish and be the only one, right? So just the dynamic of a couple of them moving over, which most didn't. But once I had one person, I'm like, yo, I got this meeting at this point. Because I just literally disrupted the entire team of people. And I had control of the meeting at that point. I had like 3 of them move to my side of the table. And then the whole dynamic was completely changed at that point. It became a discussion instead of them trying to, base a strong arm and bully me at that point.
Yeah,
so it was brilliant on accident. But, it was lucky too, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So Micah, I know we talked a lot about kind of goal setting, knowing yourself, knowing what kind of skill sets you may have, following your passion, following a specific interest, and then maybe finding solutions around that to start your first business, right? What is, you would say, the most important piece of advice for anyone that wants to take this courageous journey of being an entrepreneur? What would you be like? What would you say to your younger self?
So to my younger self, good fucking job. I mean, to my younger self, I would give no advice other than good job. Yeah. I know a lot of things now that I would, that I would do now based on it. But where I came from and what I was able to do and how I navigated through things, I would pat myself on the back because, it was all odds against me, 100%. What I would tell anyone that's about to, someone who maybe was in the same position like the corporate America, you've got the good job, right? You've done what you're supposed to do. You graduated from a good university. You did got good grades. You got the good job, and you're supposed to be happy and content where you are, and you're not. And you're on the fence. You're at that pinnacle of which way do I go? I would tell yourself to look deep inside you first and be honest with yourself. Are you willing to do what it takes to go out on your own? There's a flood of information now, and everyone being entrepreneurial is being thrown out everywhere and anywhere, but it's not for everybody. And you need to be honest with what are you really trying to exceed and set a specific goal for yourself, and are you willing to do what it takes to get there, honestly? And if the answer is no, don't do it. But if you know deep down inside you're willing to do whatever it takes, truly, to get to whatever that goal is, then I would say take that leap of faith, believe in yourself, and go for it. But don't, but ignore all the distraction and ignore all the stuff that you hear about. Follow my 5 steps and you'll be rich. And you have to put all of that aside and not pay any attention to that, because the people that are telling you that are only rich because you've been duped into sending them your hard-earned money, not because of the successes they've made. The people that are like me that are successful, and there's a lot of them out there, we're not on that corny shit. Like, we're not doing that. Like, no one's sitting there with this little gimmick, trying to grab your $60 a month.
Yeah. So Micah, I know you've built some very impressive businesses for yourself, which have led to you also becoming a real estate investor. And I know it also caught the attention of the famous TV show Selling Sunset as well. So what have you been up to in kind of the real estate world, and how did that
The
engagement
global
happen?
phenomenon, Selling Sunset, which, I mean, they're, a lot of them are my close friends, so congratulations again on another amazing season. Like, they never cease to impress me, like how far the reach of that show is globally. I mean, I learned firsthand whenever the season that I was on, and anywhere I traveled across the world. I mean, it was Micah Selling Sunset. You're Micah from like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So again, congratulations to those guys. They've got the secret recipe. They know what they're doing. The original. So I jumped straight into, the Beverly Hills real estate world. I had when I started making a little bit of money, a friend of mine had reached out and was like, hey, go look at West Hollywood. Real estate is down like record lows. Like, if you want to invest some of your money, because I'd made some money, I didn't know where to put it. Again, I don't have these types of resources. I never had them. So I started getting successful, and it was just all going to the bank, to the bank, to the bank. Well, your money sitting in the bank is actually, losing money, right? So I was like, I've got to figure out where to put my money. And the easiest, most obvious solution's always been real estate, right? That's almost something that pops into everyone's. It's stock market or real estate. So I was like, okay, West Hollywood. So I ended up buying a home in West Hollywood. It was 3.6 million. I think it was 3,625,000 is what we settled on. Keep in mind, at this point in time, I was living in a $289,000 townhome. So I was still on this, like, live within your means, live within your means. But now all of a sudden I'm parking $3.6 million in a house in West Hollywood. And I remember I'd flown out there with a real estate agent. I was extremely busy because in the business, it's 7 days a week. I told her I have one day. I landed in LA, spent a day with her, flew back that night, put one offer on this house, and ended up getting it. And I remember I flew out a month later with keys, and I didn't even remember really what the fucking house looked like. I had one of my friends at the time with me, and I was like, bro, I don't even know what I've done. Like, I'm over here, I got the keys. So, like, literally, this lady meets me at the airport. She was busy. She said, hand me the keys. And now I've got, like, a house in West Hollywood where, again, at the time, I think I drove a $40,000 car, and I had a $289,000 townhome in Houston. And now I'm sitting on this, West Hollywood at the mansion in my head, right? So I remember driving out there the first time, but to go, there's a whole other story on that. But to go, that's what brought me out to Southern California originally,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with being out there for obvious reasons. I'm 31, 32. I've got a crazy house in the hills now. Very quickly after that, I had to have a Ferrari in the driveway too, right? There's a story around that. So I started to add like the little things that go with the house, but after being there kind of a year and a half, I was like, if I'm going to be out here, I need something to be doing with myself that's more productive with my time. So then I started buying lots in Beverly Hills, and that went to developing those lots, which are unreal projects. When we're out in LA next, we'll go look at one of them. We'll talk through some of it. I'm doing more than $100 million in real estate in Southern California right now. So I've leveled up quite a bit. Doing like 50 million in Texas. So I've got about $150 million of just real estate projects going on right now. And that's still kind of, that's the side hustle still, so to speak. So in the first house that I did out there, obviously it's a feeding frenzy whenever you're building houses that are 10 million and above for real estate agents. So they find you. So Oppenheim Group, it was through another friend of mine who was really trying to get the house and wanted to be the agent. The Altman brothers, like all the big names, Mauricio, the agency, all those guys, those are the properties they're known for, right? And rightfully so. They kill it in all of those arenas. So that's how I first got introductions to some of those, to some of those big players, along with all the other folks that don't do the reality TV shows as well. So this was years ago, and that's how I met Jason. I think they were in season 1 at that point in time. A little new baby Netflix show, but now they're are killing it on season 8. But that's how I originally met with them, and ultimately through those relationships and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know you got, your main business is going. You got your real estate side hustle, right? $150 million side hustle.
$150 million side hustle.
I know. Again, your eyes are always open. You're always building and creating new stuff. I know you recently actually had gone on a trip with you, went to Guadalajara, Mexico.
Yep.
You just started a tequila brand. So what's the vision for Troluso, and yeah, what got you into that business?
Absolutely. So I remember years ago getting on a plane, I was reading an article about this new concept, Bitcoin. And I read the article, and I remember being on the plane, I'm like, you know what? It's worth throwing some money in that, right? It was nothing at the time, a couple bucks in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I remember getting busy and not doing it. And for whatever reason, right? And forget all about it. It's just one article. It's Bitcoin. It's early. But things like that those are defining moments for me as I think about the opportunity that was right in front of me, and I was distracted with whatever else, and I didn't just throw $5,000 into it. If I threw $5,000 into Bitcoin when I read that article, it would be worth how many millions of dollars at this point? I mean, it'd be. I think
Bitcoin's like 60K.
I think it was like less than $100 a Bitcoin, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
So to me, those are defining moments. How could I miss? So fast forward to, I try to capture as many opportunities as possible. Sometimes that hurts because you'll go into things, but over the course of my journey, it's helped me a lot more than it's hurt. So I'm always looking for those opportunities, and if I see something, I try to go after it. So I read an article about 5 years ago on mezcal and agave spirits, and the trajectory of mezcal specifically, and other agave spirits, including tequila, in the alcohol world, and how the upward trend over the next several years was supposed to skyrocket. And it was at that time I was like, you know what, I don't know much about this industry. This goes back into going into something you know nothing about, but let me start doing the work. Let me start researching it. Let me see if there's something here. And very quickly I took a trip to Oaxaca, Mexico originally, and started to learn some of the traditions behind it and things like that, and fell in love with it and started having a passion for it inside of me. And always enjoyed a nice, tequila on the rocks, a fine tequila, right? Something along those lines. So it kind of fit into my personal lifestyle, as well as something that I thought was a good opportunity from a business standpoint, because all of the private equities and everyone else was kind of watching this industry. So that's when I started saying, you know what, there's something here. Let me go into finding a distillery to partner with to do the mezcal and the tequila and all of that. And fast forward to now, and I've got a absolutely stunning, amazing brand called Troluso that's out there that is, I think, one of the best in the industry, and to me is going to rival, the 1942s and Clase Azules that are out there right now.
Absolutely. Micah, you're a 9-figure entrepreneur. You're doing real estate, tequila brand. You're doing all these amazing and incredible businesses. You've got the lifestyle. You've got the traveling on the PJs. You've got the cars. What's next for Micah? What can the world expect from you?
That's a great question. At this particular, and everything is always changing. I stop to think about it a little bit because I look at my life, and a lot of times I don't think about these things unless I'm sitting here with somebody like you and talking through them, right? To really stop and kind of think about where I started, the different phases and chapters. I call them the different lives I've had. I feel like I've had about 5 different completely separate lives, if you kind of break it all out. And where I am in things now is kind of understanding the concept of some of these things like money and success, and where I want to go from here, and kind of unlocking my true potential in not only like the business world and the financial world and the entrepreneurial world, but in all the other aspects of life too that are now I'm seeing are as important, if not more. So my journey with health and fitness is massively important, but with that very much hand in hand is my mental health as well, my emotional intelligence, and where I am in that journey and trying to become a better person and become more emotionally intelligent, and work on my mental and physical health so I'm fully optimized and feeling good and happy, and then trying to give back to touch and affect other people's lives. We have some chats about this. Our off-camera chats are better than even our on-camera a lot of times, right? So in how do you touch and connect with other people, even if it's just one person, right? How do you affect and change the lives around you? And that's, and pass that on, and become a catalyst of change for, God willingly, my children one day and generations after me, but also in other people and their families and their children as well. How do I become a catalyst of change for that? Because that to me is, in the whole scheme of things, as important. But to me, it all goes together. My ability to do that and be that is directly related to how much money I have and what kind of platform I can create. Because I guarantee you, with no money and no platform and nobody curious about you or what you're doing, and in the world we live in, it's certain things that give that curiosity, whether it's material or not, whether it's how you look, how you move, how you act. You need a platform. You need social currency and value. You need monetary currency and value. And those will elevate all the other things that you're doing. So when people talk about, you're money hungry, materialistic, yes, and yes. And those are the things that are going to be the motors behind all these other machines that I'm trying to create. Because without that, you have nothing. So if I want to be a catalyst for change for not only my life and generations after me, and for other people's lives and generations after them, you need resources and you need some gasoline, right? Yeah. And that's the money. That's the social currency and value to create all that. So to me, it's full balance and it's all hand in hand. And that's where I want to move more into. I'm trying to level up the financial side of things, not because I'm going to fly on more P-jets, not because I'm going to have more car. If you told me right now, what car have you ever had I've had every car I want. I've flown on every jet I want to fly on. I've been to most places. I've been on yachts. I've done, how many times I want to go on a bigger yacht. Like, how much bigger of a yacht can you do, right? Like, how much better of a plane? Like, so at some point in time, I'm building all of that because that's going to be the resources and the driving force behind all the other things that I want to do that are becoming more and more, valuable to me over time. So I'm going to elevate everything. I'm going to get bigger and bigger financially from a business standpoint, and that success is going to funnel into these other avenues that are ultimately going to be the catalyst to change generations after me and the lives of others around.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like in any area of life, right? If you're going to be in great shape, you could also have a great business and have great finances, right? There's no rules to this. And I think one thing that's really important, one of my favorite...
And you can have it all.
Absolutely.
And that's what you can have it all. Yes, you can have it all.
Yeah.
Why would I settle for anything less? Absolutely. If I can be optimized physically, if I can be optimized mentally, if I can have more financial means than I'll ever need for myself, if I can be emotionally intelligent, if I can affect other people's lives and be a good human being and a good person, and look good and be healthy and dress well and speak well, and why would I not be all of those things?
Yeah.
And anyone can be. I mean, that's the whole point, is anyone can be the best version of themselves in everything that they want to be. It's not a choice of, I'm going to choose money or health, or I'm going to choose fitness or being a good person, or and I think there's a lot of divisive talk that tries to be like, you're too materialistic. Like, no, like last time I checked, it takes a lot of fucking money to live, and the more you have, the more things that you can do for everyone else around you. If I'm broke and don't have any, I can't say, put food in my own. How am I going to, provide for others around me, or make a change or make a difference even in one life? Yeah. Like, why would I not be optimized in every arena? So to me, it's full balance of everything, and you can have all of it and not have to apologize for any of it. Yeah. It all works together.
Absolutely.
You don't have to pick and choose. You can take it all. It's an abundance mindset, but in a healthy, positive way. It's getting a bad rap, like abundance equals greed. No. By having an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, you have to, or somehow you can't be humble but also very confident and proud of what you've done. You can be all of these things.
And you can be humble and very
absolutely
wealthy too.
But I know the work I've put in. I'm not going to sit here and not be proud of the effort that I've put into something.
Sure.
But does that mean, you're too cocky? No. No, I'm a very humble person. I'm a very good human being, but I've also put the fucking work in, and you're not going to diminish that because you're not where I'm at, and you want to talk at me instead of trying to get on the same level and be the best version of yourself too. Because I don't have I don't have 2 seconds to talk about someone else and what they're doing and whether or not they're cocky or confident or humble or not. And the fact that some people do means they're not optimized in some of the areas they should be, and they need to redirect their time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one of my favorite J. Cole lines in a song is, "Until you get it, until you have it, like how could you know?" Right?
Exactly.
Like you can't speak on something you haven't done. You go get wealthy then, and then tell us money is bad, right?
Exactly. And no, it's a great point. It's a fantastic point, and it's true. And it's true, but again, there's all the speech against certain things, and like they can't all work harmoniously, and you can be a good human being and have a lot of stuff and enjoy a nice car or want to go on a yacht instead of a Carnival cruise line. I can do all of it. That's the whole thing. I've had nothing, and I've had what seemingly is everything. I've been massively happy both ways. And if I had nothing tomorrow, I would be massively happy and just fine because I've already had nothing. I already know what it's like having nothing. And the only thing that makes having stuff fun and good is because you've never had it before. I would have hated to be the person to grow up and I'm on a yacht and I'm on hit. You have no concept of money, and it doesn't mean anything. For me to go sit down and spend $1,000 on dinner means nothing. That's just what I've always done. But whenever I was eating for 17 cents a day, like it's kind of cool to be able to look at what all my hard work has done. I can do this and enjoy this, and not have to worry about the next meal. That's the only thing that makes having that stuff fun. Eventually, you become numb to all of it. You can only jump in a great car, so many times. You're gonna numb yourself to it a bit here and there. But the things that keep giving you energy and satisfaction and things like that, you can have all of those and still have the Ferrari and still have the nice house. They can go together, and you can still be a great human being and have a great heart and everything else as well. You don't have to pick and choose.
All right, guys. Well, that was an amazing conversation with Micah. Micah, any closing remarks, closing statements to leave everyone off with?
Right now, I would just focus on Mr. Buffett, which I have a lot of respect for. Well, that's another conversation for Warren Buffett. He actually owns one of the companies that I was instrumental in starting and growing, is in his portfolio now. So I would love to at some point in time sit down with him. We'll see if that happens. It sold to a private equity first and then went to him. So I've never been at a table with him. That would be a very cool thing that could happen. But I would just say focus on the quote that he had, once in a lifetime opportunities come across about twice a year.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there, just keep your eyes open, remove distractions, pay attention to what's going on around you. Opportunities happen all the time, but you have to be undistracted to be able to even recognize them and possibly, get into the situation that you want to be in if you're in one that you don't want to be in right now.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Micah. Great chatting.
Yep.